For a decade, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson wasn't just a movie star. He was a monument, a physical ideal carved from granite and sold as inspiration. His brand was a gospel of relentless hustle, impossible positivity, and superhuman discipline. The narrative was airtight. The kid with $7 in his pocket who outworked everyone to become the highest-paid actor on the planet. It was a story Hollywood loved and audiences worshipped. But in Hollywood, every monument is built on a fault line. And in September of 2025 at the Venice Film Festival, the ground finally gave way. The Rock stepped onto the red carpet and the world did a double take. The iconic mountainous physique was gone. He appeared lean, almost diminished. The visual shock was immediate. Headlines asked if he was ill, fans expressed concern. But in the industry's back channels, a darker, more knowing question began to circulate. Was this a simple health choice, or was it the final visible symptom of a systemic collapse years in the making? This wasn't about a diet or a new role. This was about cause and effect. Because the true story of Dwayne Johnson isn't about the muscles he built. It's about the walls he built around himself. Walls of ego, of control, of an image so perfectly manufactured it became a prison. And one by one, those walls have been crumbling. This is the forensic account of that collapse. This is how the most disciplined man in Hollywood, through a series of calculated power plays and stunning miscalculations, engineered his own downfall. The Venice reveal wasn't the beginning of the end. It was simply the moment the rest of the world could finally see what insiders had known for years. The Rock's greatest fight wasn't in the ring or on screen. It was a fight against his own reflection, and he was losing. The first cracks. The sanctuary and the savior. To understand the war, you must first understand the kingdom. By 2011, the Fast and Furious franchise was Vin Diesel's chaotic personal fiefdom. He wasn't just the star, he was a producer with creative control, the self-appointed patriarch of a family he curated. The films were his domain, a blend of street racing nostalgia and increasingly grandiose heists. But the kingdom was stagnating. It needed a jolt, a new kind of energy to catapult it into the blockbuster stratosphere. Enter Dwayne Johnson. Fresh from a string of family-friendly comedies and desperate to be taken seriously as an action force, he was cast as Agent Luke Hobbs in Fast 5, a human wrecking ball sent to hunt Diesel's crew. The move was a studio masterstroke. Johnson delivered, with critics hailing him as the franchise's savior. How to reignite an aging franchise, one review asked. Drop The Rock on it. Overnight, the dynamic was poisoned at its root. In Diesel's kingdom, there was now a co-king, hailed not for loyalty to the family, but for the sheer disruptive force of his presence. Johnson wasn't just joining a franchise, he was occupying territory. And from day one, the two alphas spoke different languages. Diesel spoke of legacy and family. Johnson spoke of metrics, work ethic, and winning. The foundation was laid not for collaboration, but for a cold war of influence. The on-set reality. The public face was all brotherhood and torque. Privately, the set of Fast and Furious became a tense, demilitarized zone. Whispers, long suppressed by tight PR control, told a consistent story of two camps. Johnson, the outsider brought in to save the project, operated with the discipline of a military commander, a discipline that, to the established crew, often read as isolation. Reports, later corroborated by multiple productions, detailed a pattern. The Rock would arrive late, his schedule a fortress managed by his own personal team. Sometimes he wouldn't arrive at all, forcing complex and expensive reshuffles of the shooting schedule. This wasn't mere diva behavior, it was a power signal. In the world of movie making, time is literal money, and controlling the clock is a form of dominance. His late arrivals were a silent declaration that his time, his process, was more valuable than the ensembles. He wasn't part of the family grind, he was a corporate entity merging with a smaller, messier operation. The resentment wasn't just Vin Diesel's. It trickled down to crew members whose days were extended and to co-stars who prepared for scenes that never happened. The family was a press tour slogan. The set reality was a corporate takeover meeting a cult of personality, and the friction was generating a dangerous heat. The Instagram detonation. For years, the heat was contained. Then, in August 2016, Dwayne Johnson made a catastrophic error in judgment, one that revealed a fundamental misunderstanding of his own brand. From his Instagram account, he launched a furious, cryptic broadside against his Fast 8 male co-stars. He praised his female colleagues, then wrote, "My male co-stars, however, are a different story. Some conduct themselves as stand-up men and true professionals, while others don't. The ones that don't are too chicken to do anything about it anyway. Candy asses." The entertainment world exploded. But the true damage wasn't in the gossip about who the target was. Everyone knew it was Diesel. The damage was in the act itself. Johnson had violated the first rule of modern personal branding: never let them see the machinery of your ego. His entire empire was built on inspirational, positive control. This was raw, unfiltered, petty anger. He traded the mantle of the people's champion for that of a disgruntled employee. In a single post, he transformed a private power struggle into public evidence of his own fragility. He showed he could be rattled. He showed he needed to vent. He handed his rivals, the media, and the public a crowbar to start prying at the flawless image he'd spent a decade building. It was more than a feud. It was a strategic surrender of the high ground. The crack in the monument was now a public spectacle. And in Hollywood, once a crack is public, the whole industry starts looking for the next one. The Instagram post wasn't the cause of the downfall. It was the first major self-inflicted fracture. The power grab. The psychological counterstrike. While The Rock raged publicly, Vin Diesel engaged in a different, far more calculated form of warfare. He understood that in the boardrooms and trade papers that truly dictate Hollywood power, perception is the ultimate currency. He didn't respond with fire. He responded with condescending, paternalistic affection, a psychological poison tailored specifically for Johnson's ego. Diesel waited 8 months, letting the narrative of The Rock as the unstable, disruptive element solidify. Then, on the press tour for The Fate of the Furious, he spoke to USA Today. His tone was that of a weary but loving patriarch. "In my house," he said, "he's Uncle Dwayne." He framed himself as the protector, claiming, "I protect Dwayne more than he'll ever know." Then came the masterstroke, the line that was less a quote and more a strategic missile. "Dwayne has only got one Vin in his life. Dwayne Johnson only has one big brother in this film world, and that's me." The genius of this move was its deniability. On the surface, it sounded like olive branch sentimentality. In reality, it was a brutal hierarchy play. By self-appointing himself as the big brother, Diesel was demoting Johnson to the status of a child, a talented but temperamental junior who needed guidance. Years later, promoting F9, Diesel doubled down, claiming he used a lot of tough love to guide Johnson's performance. This narrative was devastating. It reframed Johnson's career-defining role not as his own triumph, but as an achievement managed by Diesel's superior Hollywood wisdom. For a man whose identity was built on being the alpha, the self-made titan, this little brothering was the ultimate emasculation. Diesel won the press cycle not by fighting The Rock, but by patronizing him, proving he understood the old Hollywood rule: the surest way to diminish a giant is to speak of him like a child. The Spin-Off Mutiny. The Rock's response to this psychological warfare wasn't more words, it was a corporate act of secession. In October 2017, Universal announced Hobbs Shaw, a Fast and Furious spin-off starring Johnson and Jason Statham, pointedly excluding Vin Diesel and the core family. This was not a simple sequel. This was a mutiny. Johnson, feeling his authority and brand undermined within the main franchise, used his skyrocketing clout to carve out his own autonomous territory. He took a key asset, the popular Luke Hobbs character, and declared independence. The message to the industry was clear. Johnson did not need Diesel's kingdom. He would build his own. The film's substantial commercial success, grossing over $760 million, was his proof of concept. But the strategic victory came with a profound reputational cost. To the loyalists of the franchise and to observers of Hollywood politics, This was the ultimate betrayal of the family ethos Diesel constantly preached. It framed Johnson not as a team player, but as a corporate raider, willing to balkanize a unified franchise for his own empire building. The spin-off's success wasn't seen as a win for the family, but as a win for Johnson over the family. It cemented the feud not as a personal spat, but as a bitter public divorce over intellectual property and power. The Rock had his own kingdom now, but he was permanently branded as the heir who stole the crown jewels on his way out the door. The no-lose clause exposed. The feud with Diesel exposed a public battle for dominance, but a more telling and ultimately more damaging revelation was percolating behind the scenes: the now infamous no-lose clause. Industry whispers, later confirmed by trades like the Wall Street Journal, revealed that Johnson's contract stipulated his characters could not lose fights on screen and could only endure a limited amount of punishment. On the surface, this was framed as brand management, protecting the invincible action hero image. But on a practical level, it was the physical manifestation of an ego that could not tolerate even fictionalized defeat. This clause wasn't a business term, it was a psychological tell. It forced writers to contort plots, directors to choreograph fight scenes with one hand tied, and editors to cut around moments that might make him look vulnerable. It bred quiet, seething resentment among crews and creative teams who saw their work compromised to service one man's vanity. An actor refusing to lose a scripted fight isn't professional, it's pathological. It killed narrative stakes and made his action sequences feel predictable and weightless. Audiences began to vocalize the boredom. You can tell that's in The Rock's contract. He seems invincible in every movie. The clause exposed a chilling truth. Dwayne Johnson's need to win wasn't just a personal drive. It was a non-negotiable demand that handicapped entire productions. It was the moment his legendary work ethic curdled into something darker: a gnome. The Empire strikes and falls. The DC Coup Attempt. Emboldened by his franchise Mutiny, Dwayne Johnson set his sights on a grander prize, not just a role in a cinematic universe, but control of one. His vehicle was Black Adam. From the outset, he framed the project not as an introduction, but as a hostile takeover. In relentless promotional tours, he positioned the character as an unstoppable force, repeatedly and pointedly comparing him to Superman. Black Adam has all the powers of Superman, he would state, but Superman won't kill. Black Adam will kill you. The subtext was a corporate manifesto. The old hierarchy, led by the Boy Scout Superman, was soft. A new, harder power was arriving. This wasn't just hype. It was a deliberate strategy to reposition the DC Universe's center of gravity around himself. He notoriously sidelined the character's natural narrative home, the Shazam franchise, alienating its creative team and insisting on a standalone path. Most tellingly, he leveraged his immense star power to force a cameo by Henry Cavill's Superman into the film's finale, against the initial wishes of the studio leadership at the time. This wasn't a creative choice, it was a power play, an attempt to create his own Versus franchise by sheer force of will. He wasn't joining the DC universe, he was attempting to annex it, to make it the next chapter in the Johnsonverse. Insiders whispered of his team's ambitions for him to take a leadership role in the chaotic DC slate. Black Adam was less a movie and more a corporate coup d'etat, with Johnson installing himself as the new head of state. The box office reckoning. The coup failed spectacularly. Black Adam flopped, grossing a weak $393 million worldwide against a production and marketing cost rumored to approach $400 million. In Hollywood's brutal math, it was a definitive bomb. The narrative of his invincibility shattered on the rocks of opening weekend. Johnson's response to this failure was more damaging than the failure itself. Instead of a graceful, professional acceptance, he mounted a defiant, misleading PR counteroffensive. He took to social media with a since-deleted infographic claiming the film would turn a profit between $52 million and $72 million, using a skewed, self-serving analysis that ignored standard industry accounting. The move was seen as transparent and desperate. Film journalists and industry analysts immediately eviscerated the claim. He wasn't just losing, he was trying to gaslight the public about the score. This refusal to accept a public loss revealed a stunning lack of professional humility. The industry's verdict was swift and final. The new DC leadership of James Gunn and Peter Safran, brought in to clean house, promptly made it clear Johnson's character was not part of their future. The man who tried to commandeer the universe was unceremoniously benched. The message was clear: in the boardroom, failed coups are not forgiven. The Rock's power was not absolute, and when his box office magic failed, his political capital evaporated overnight. Red 1: The Unraveling. If Black Adam exposed the limits of his brand's power, the production of the 2024 Christmas film Red 1 exposed the rotting foundation of his professional myth. Leaked reports from the set, later confirmed by major trades, painted a picture of chaos directly attributed to its star. Johnson was chronically, egregiously late, sometimes by hours, sometimes not showing up at all, forcing a $200 million production to screech to a halt and costing Amazon an estimated $50 million in overages. The stories went beyond scheduling. Crew members described a degrading atmosphere where Johnson would urinate in water bottles to be disposed of by assistants, a bizarre habit he'd once bizarrely bragged about in a training video. This was the complete dismantling of the ultimate professional persona. The man who sold a gospel of discipline and respect was now the source of costly, disrespectful disorder. The studio's defensive public statements, dismissing the reports as ridiculous, only deepened the credibility gap. The film itself, delayed and ultimately another financial disappointment, became a footnote to its own scandal. Red 1 served as a case study for Hollywood executives. Dwayne Johnson was no longer a reliable asset. He was a high-risk, high-maintenance liability. The myth of the hard-working, humble giant was replaced by the industry truth of a chaotic, entitled star whose personal brand of winning had come at the direct expense of the projects he was in. The collateral damage was no longer just rival actors or spurned directors. It was now measured in tens of millions of wasted studio dollars. The brand eats the man. The Walking Billboard. The Dwayne Johnson brand was once a powerful, cohesive idea. Inspiration made flesh. The gym sessions, the early morning posts, the $7 origin story. They sold a dream of self-determination. But as his film career faced headwinds, the machinery of the brand began to cannibalize the man. The inspirational figure slowly mutated into a relentless, omnipresent sales algorithm. Every social media post began to feel like a transaction. The Rock wasn't just working out, he was showcasing Project Rock apparel. He wasn't just having a cheat meal, he was holding a bottle of his Terramana tequila. He wasn't just watching football, he was promoting his ownership stake in the XFL. The turning point into pure cynicism came with endorsements that severed any last connection to authenticity. Promoting a men's 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner to an audience that had only ever known his gleaming, hairless scalp wasn't just business. It was a jarring admission that his likeness would be slapped on anything for a check. The People's Champion had become the People's Pitchman. The carefully curated vulnerability of cheat meals and fatherly posts now felt like calculated engagement hooks in a never-ending infomercial. The brand, designed to make him relatable and invincible, had instead made him seem artificial and desperate. Fans didn't see a hard worker sharing his life. They saw a human corporation optimizing its revenue streams. The inspirational brand had consumed the authentic man, leaving behind a polished, hollow shell that promised motivation but delivered only a sales funnel. The final round. The WWE Boardroom Coup. In January 2024, Dwayne Johnson executed what he likely saw as a masterful full-circle return, joining the WWE's board of directors. This wasn't just a nostalgia play, it was a move for institutional power within the empire that made him. He swiftly leveraged that power, using his boardroom influence to muscle his way into the main event of WrestleMania 40, sidelining the year-long, fan-driven narrative built around Cody Rhodes. For Johnson, it was the ultimate power move, using corporate authority to script himself as the hero in the world's biggest wrestling spectacle. But he profoundly misread the room. The modern WWE fanbase is fiercely protective of its storytelling. The hashtag #WeWantCody exploded. For the first time in his career, The Rock was met not with adulation, but with a stadium of boos. He wasn't being welcomed home as a hero, he was being rejected as a corporate villain, a suit using backdoor politics to hijack a story he hadn't earned. The backlash was so volcanic that WWE was forced into a stunning public reversal. The board member was overruled by the audience. Cody Rhodes was reinstated and went on to win the championship. Johnson's coup failed spectacularly, proving that even in the kingdom he helped build, raw power without authentic connection was a liability. The people's champion was booed by the very people, revealing that his brand of leadership was now seen as selfish, not service-oriented. The physical transformation. All these threads, the professional setbacks, the brand corrosion, the fan rejection, coalesced into a single, shocking image at the 2025 Venice Film Festival. The Rock, the human monument, appeared drastically diminished. The iconic mass was gone. The internet erupted with three competing theories, each a referendum on his past. First, the health theory, a positive choice for wellness and longevity. Second, the artistic dedication theory, a drastic physical change for an upcoming role. But it was the third, the chemical reckoning theory, that carried the dark weight of consequence. It posited that the legendary physique was unsustainable without pharmaceutical assistance, and its disappearance was the inevitable result of stepping away from a decades-long regime. This theory wasn't just about physiology. It framed his entire inspirational edifice, the hard work gospel, as a potentially fraudulent narrative. Whether true or not, the fact that this was the dominant public discourse marked a point of no return. The physical symbol of his power had vanished, and the loudest conversation was about what artificial means might have built it in the first place. The monument had not just cracked, it had fundamentally changed shape, and the shadow it now cast was one of doubt, not awe. The Unraveled Legacy. So, what is the final verdict on the collapse of Dwayne Johnson? It is not a story of one bad movie or a single feud. It is a systemic failure of a self-constructed empire. The trajectory is clear, from the people's champion to a perceived corporate villain. The ego that drove his meteoric rise, the need to win, to control, to be the alpha in every room, became the very flaw that engineered his decline. It fractured the Fast family, botched a DC takeover, bred resentment on sets, transformed his brand into a cynical billboard, and finally alienated his core wrestling fan base. The haunting question left by the Venice transformation is this: when you spend 2 decades building a persona of superhuman perfection, a brand so powerful it subsumes the man, what remains when the physique fades, the box office cools, and the public's faith erodes? What is left when the persona is stripped away? The answer, for now, seems to be a stark vacuum where the $7 hustler once stood, surrounded by the collateral damage of his own need to never, ever look weak. The final fight was never against Vin Diesel, or Warner Brothers, or Cody Rhodes. It was against the unsustainable image he himself created. And in that fight, the image and the man it contained may have finally met their match. If you found this deep dive into the making and unmaking of a modern icon compelling, then you need to see our breakdown of the secret contract clauses that are destroying Hollywood's biggest franchises. We reveal the star demands that twist scripts and cost studios millions. Hit that like button if you want more truth behind the glamour, subscribe to Cinema Fallout, and turn on notifications so you never miss when we pull back the curtain.